Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you are doing well. I am very excited for today's video because we are going to be talking about how you can perfect your RP accent. Now, in case you did not know, RP stands for Received Pronunciation. This is otherwise known as the Queen's English. It is what you would have heard in the south of England in the BBC and on lots of media for years and years and years. It sounds a little something like this.
The guest is my last news bulletin of the year and the decade. Tonight also marks the end of the International Year of the Child. And today, children march through London to attend a Thanksgiving service.
However, as the generations have moved on, we now have these sort of different tiers for what RP really means. So in that last extract, that is technically RP English. However, nowadays it might be known as something such as heightened RP or period drama RP instead. In fact, what I want to focus on today is what's now known as modern RP, or what Jeff Lindsay would call SSB, and there's also like neutral, general, southern British, English. There are lots and lots of different things that are all talking about the same accent, and that accent happens to be one that I am naturally very close to. And I haven't introduced myself, so if you are new here, my name is Molly. I am a voice and accent coach based in London, but I grew up in Surrey, which is just outside London in the south of England. I grew up in a middle class environment, and I would say I pretty much have what a lot of people would term as modern RP, or when the usual people who maybe aren't accent coaches and aren't working in the industry would just call an RP accent of today. So I'm going to be running you down how to perfect your RP accent, some of the key mistakes people make along the way, as well as the key components, including the oral posture, the consonants, the vowel sounds, as well as the prosody or musicality of how you can perfect this accent. So with all of that, let's crack on. So the first thing I'm going to address in this video is what we call the oral posture. Now, oral posture is just referring to the setup of your mouth in order to make the sounds within this accent. Every single accent has a slightly different way of manipulating your pharynx and the articulators in order to help make those sounds as safely and as efficiently and as truthfully as possible. Think of your whole being as almost like a car, and it's just about adjusting that gear stick to see how you can get in the, oh, I'm in the American vowel sound, and then, oh, I'm in the British vowel sound, and then you can just find the right gear. And hopefully when you get that oral posture right, it's just going to be a lot easier to go into the right direction in which you want to go. With the modern RP accent, mostly people like to overdo it. So if I was to go into a heightened RP accent, I'm almost imagining my mouth is like a funnel. So I'm thinking very, very tight in the front of my mouth and very large and lots of space in the back of my mouth like a yawn. However, in my accent, everything is a lot more relaxed. You can notice that as I'm speaking to you right now, my jaw and my lips are barely moving. I can really often feel my tongue is right behind my bottom teeth. So for a lot of you, you might have to really think about your tongue moving quite far forward in order to feel behind your bottom teeth, and everything just stays really relaxed. A good way we can get into this relaxed posture is practicing the schwa sound or the hesitation sound in this accent. And just practicing that, making sure that your tongue is behind your bottom teeth, your lips are nice and relaxed, and you can also give a uh-oh, 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 which is just quite a nice way of balancing out and thickening out the vocal folds to get you also into this gear. Uh-oh, uh-oh. So once you think you've found that oral posture, everything feels relaxed and the tongue feels like it's at the front, why don't you try saying for me, uh-oh, Monday, uh-oh, Tuesday, uh-oh, Wednesday, uh-oh, Thursday, uh-oh, Friday, uh-oh, Saturday, uh-oh, Sunday. And you should notice that you hardly have to move anything at all in order to make those sounds. The next thing I want to touch on is consonants. Now, if you have seen this video that I will put up somewhere here, you will hear me talking about lots of jargon, including rhoticity. An accent is either rhotic or non-rhotic. This accent is an example of a non-rhotic accent, meaning I don't always pronounce the R's. Sometimes they'll be on the page and I will choose to avoid them, especially if they follow a vowel sound, such as start, car, park, lark, remark, chart, restart. All the words have gone from my head, but you get the gist. Any of those types of words, or these that I'm going to put on the screen now, I'm not going to bother pronouncing the R sound for. So rather than saying start or start, I'm going to say start, start. So I'm just saying the S-T-R-T sound, start, car. Now this exception does happen when an R is sandwiched between two vowel sounds, such as hero or carrot. I am then going to pronounce my R's, hero, carrot. And obviously when an R is at the beginning of a word, such as Roger, rabbit, ran, then I'm also going to pronounce my R's. So make sure you do pronounce some R's, especially if they're at the beginning of the word or if they're sandwiched between two vowel sounds. But usually if you get a vowel, then an R, we're going to ignore it. So when I do pronounce those R sounds, how am I doing so? There are two different ways you've got here. First way is what would be called a labiodental fricative R. And for that, I mean that I am using my teeth and my lips, so labiodental, and fricative, meaning that the articulators are coming together but leaving a slight gap, meaning that there's quite a lot of breath and air that can vibrate through them. So I'm literally going ruh, ruh, ruh. I'm pouting my lips and I can feel my top teeth on my lip, ruh, on the inside, ruh, ruh, ruh. That may be me picking up more of London sounds, but I would actually highly argue that a lot of people will say their R's when living in the south of England, which is really what people mean by this RP accent, will say it like that, ruh, ruh, ruh. However, there may also be times when I'm actually just using an R by using my tongue and it's slightly raising in my mouth. So my lips are staying neutral, my teeth aren't getting involved at all. Ruh, ruh, Roger, ran, rabbit. Roger, ran, rabbit. So your two options, again, are using your teeth and your lips, Roger, or just using your tongue, Roger. Usually it's a little bit of a mix. Sometimes it depends who you're talking to, how comfortable you feel talking to someone. For me, I associate those two sounds, just using the tongue as something that feels a little bit more formal and the lips as something that feels a little bit more relaxed, but play with whatever feels the most natural to you and whatever is suitable for why you want to learn this accent. Another thing I will mention are T's. Now, if you gave me a word on its own, such as right, notice I'm using a labiodental R there, right, I am pronouncing that T sound, and I'm pronouncing that T sound by bringing my tongue behind my top teeth on the alveolar ridge. T. However, if I then have that word in a whole sentence and it's somewhere in the middle of that sentence, so I've got somewhere to go onto, such as, am I right in thinking that? 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 You'll notice that I'm dropping that T altogether. Again, this may depend. So usually I would say when you have a word on its own or a word finishes and a sentence finishes with a word that ends in a T, then I would say pronounce it. However, if you feel like it feels unnatural to do that and going through a whole sentence, you'd actually rather drop that T, such as am I right in thinking that, then that wouldn't be unusual to find in the modern RP accent. It's something that you wouldn't find in heightened RP, such as the Crown or the Queen's English, but nowadays it feels a little bit more common and it's a little bit more usual. Again, I associate more formality with pronouncing all of my T's, but more relaxed when I drop them. So that's up to you to play with. Let's now talk about THs. So to make a TH sound, I'm going to bring my tongue in between my teeth, like so. I think that's the case. I think that's the case. I think that's the case. Now, if you're familiar or more usual with more London sounds, you might think I'd say, I think that's the case, or altogether, let's think about that. And I probably would say that, to be honest, quite a lot of times, but that's because I've lived in London for quite a few years. However, before I moved to London, I don't think that was part of my vocabulary. So I wouldn't say it's part of RP, but you wouldn't be looked down on, I don't think, if you were doing some sort of general Southern English accent and you added an F and a V rather than the TH. But if you are going for strictly RP, modern RP sounds, I'd only say bring the tongue in between the teeth and think of a sound instead. And then let's touch on L's. So there are two ways I can say an L. That is what we call a light L, where the tongue and tip of the tongue is flicking behind my teeth, la 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 la. I use this L at the start of words such as Larry, lazy and lamb. However, there's also a velarized L, which is more of an American L, and Northerners always use this L, where I'm bringing my whole tongue upwards towards my soft palate or my velar, and it sounds something like this. Oh. I use this L if an L is nearing the end of a word, such as cool or film, and I'm using this more swallowed-like way of pronouncing my L's. So if you had the sentence, I need to call Larry the lazy lamb, I'm using that velarized L on cool, but Larry lazy lamb, I'm keeping really light. Now, if we put the consonants to one side and move on to the vowel sounds meaning any sound where your articulators are not getting involved. There is one sound in particular that we have already covered, but I would like to bring your attention to, which is the schwa. Now, the schwa is that sound that we looked at earlier. It's where everything is really relaxed, really neutral. And the reason I want to draw your attention to that is because we will use that all of the time when it comes to the modern RP sound. For example, let's take the sentence, will you come back here please, Forrest Gump? Will you come back here please, Forrest Gump? I will probably say that in my most relaxed fashion. Will you come back here please, Forrest Gump? Will you come back here please, Forrest Gump? And you can definitely hear in a bit of you, in come and gump, I'm definitely using it. So that sound happens all the time. Let's take another sentence. Let's say, when I go to the shops, when I go to the shops. You'll notice that I'm not saying when I go to the shops, I'm saying when I go to the shops. That's because when you're thinking about this accent in whole sentences, quite a lot of the time, because we're moving on to another word, just like how we dropped the T in right in the previous example, I'm almost going to replace certain vowel sounds such as to with this sound so that it just feels a little bit easier to roll off of the tongue. Other vowel sounds that might be quite key to this accent and are quite similar to the schwa include strut, strut, strut. In this sound, my tongue is quite far forward. I'm relaxing my jaw a little bit, but not quite as much as I think a lot of people will usually want to when they do the British accent. For example, you can say the sentence, the dull young monks, the dull young monks. That is really similar to the schwa sound. In fact, I would probably argue that it is the schwa sound. Sometimes it can differ slightly and my jaw can open a little bit more. You may also notice a difference when I say trap, bath, and palm. So bath and palm in this instance are the same sound, R. My jaw is opening, whereas trap is nice and wide. Whereas if you're from the north of England, you probably say trap and bath as the same vowel sound, whereas I say trap, bath and palm. You also have a sound such as nurse, which is a really good word to practice if you naturally have a rhotic accent and how to get into a non-rhotic accent. For example, let's take the sentence, the bird fed the worm on the church. The bird fed the worm on the church. Bird, worm, church. I'm saying that all the same. So I'm not saying warm or worm, I'm saying worm. It's almost like a U sound in that. Another lexical set that might be interesting for you to practice could be thought, north, force. Again, I'm saying the same sound in that, or thought, north, force. I'm not pronouncing those R sounds, but I am elongating that sound, and I'm slightly rounding my lips. Thought, north, force for all of those sounds as well. Similarly, one that a lot of people struggle with is foot and goat. They're two different sounds, but I really want you to think about just relaxing everything here. Foot, foot, foot. I am literally not moving my lips at all. Foot, foot, foot. Quite similar for the diphthong goat. I'm hardly making it a diphthong. Goat, goat, goat. Oh, look at the goat's foot over there. Oh, look at the goat's foot over there. When you get to a word like goose, you can again afford to round your lips and elongate it. But most of our diphthongs really are very, very subtle, such as near in heightened RP would have been something like near, near, near. Whereas I would just say near, near, near. And it's more as if there's an R colorization in there that affects that diphthong rather than a whole new vowel sound. Of course, those are just some of the general vowel sounds that you would need to practice, but as long as you get those ones down and you think about that oral posture, hopefully you're in that gear to just start the force in driving. Obviously, I don't know what accent you have who is watching this. Thank you for watching this, by the way. If you've got this far, please press a thumbs up and don't forget to comment letting me know what accent you'd like to perfect next. But because I don't know where you are coming from, it makes it quite tricky to pick these vowel sounds. So do leave me a message if there are some words that you're just not quite getting, and I'll try to reply with the right sentences to help you out. The last thing I want to talk a little bit about is prosody, or the musicality of the modern RP accent. So we were practicing with the sensation of uh-oh before, and that's because I think a lot of modern RP speakers kind of transition from either a head resonance or a bit of a chesty resonance. Not a lot is happening in the mask, especially if you compare our accent to more American or Australian or even Northern. A lot of it sits a little bit further back in the body and the throat. And in terms of the musicality, I want you to have a think about this. So I'm going to speak a little bit of an extract. I'm just going to tell you about what I am up to for the rest of today. And as I'm speaking, can you pretend your hand is a little bit of a, I don't know, conductor, and you're going to go up when I go up, down when I go down, and I'm going to try and not think about it whatsoever. So see if you can follow along and you can tell me about what you notice about the musicality. So for the rest of today, I am going to finish this video, and then I think I have 2 more clients today. Actually, I have 3 more clients. 2 of which are returning. One is a new client, which I'm really excited to talk about. They want to do accent work, and then I've got 2 people on for audition prep. I've just kind of got to catch up on lots of things. This is the first chance I've had to sit down and actually film a YouTube video, because I've been dashing about on tech rehearsals and things like that. So I'm just catching up on all of my social medias. I have a YouTube video going up tonight, and I've also written my newsletter for next week. So it's really like an admin-y, client-y day, which is nice. It's good to have that once in a while rather than leading group scenarios. So what did you notice? Some things you may have seen is that I tend to go down at the end of my sentences unless I've got a continuing thought. Another thing that is very common in the RP accent is we like to slur all of our words into one. Quite often, I will not take a breath until the very end of a sentence. So for example, if I had a sentence such as, let's talk it through, or let's draw it out, I would say, let's talk it through, let's talk it through, let's draw it out, let's draw it out. And you'll notice in that second sentence, I'm actually adding what we call an intrusive R in order to help me transfer my lips and my articulators from that W to the I. Draw it out. Because it's like I'm slurring all of my words together, which give the accent some sort of smooth quality. If I was coaching this with a lab and effort, I'd probably give it something like a wave where it's going in and out, but it's not quite as light as what we associate the heightened RP accent to be. It's a little bit heavier, it sits a little bit lower in the body, however it keeps that slurriness and smoothness and goes down at the end. I would also say there is some inflection in the accent, but remember, I'm also a vocal coach, so I think I have a tendency to intonate myself a lot more than most people with this accent. I think it's actually quite a flat accent, and when you do emphasize something, I think you can do it with pitch, but I think in the general scheme of things, I'm probably someone who's a little bit more animated than your general person, especially because I'm literally speaking to a camera, and so that always can affect your accent as well. So to sum up the musicality, some big tips you want to take away are slur all of your words together, go down at the end of a sentence unless you're emphasizing something or asking a question, but in general, it's fairly flat and fairly smooth, almost like you're gliding on something. And that just about sums up all of the tips and tricks I have in order to perfect your modern RP or just RP accent. I really hope this has been helpful, and don't worry if you haven't got your head around all of the tips and tricks. Just listening to my accent, if you are trying to learn this accent, is probably going to be a really good place to start for you. And if you aren't quite sure of some of the terminology I've used, please do refer to one of the videos I will link up here, as I have gone into far more depth about all of the terminology I have used in the past. Or you could also sign up to a 30-minute completely free consultation link using the link in my bio. All of my social media links will also be down there, as well as my PDFs, and I may have a PDF coming out very, very soon all about accents, which you should absolutely check out if you have found this video useful. Like I said, please press a like and subscribe. Leave a comment of any accents that you would like to know in the future. And more than anything, just enjoy. If there's one thing I can give you advice on when it's doing this accent, is less is more. We're very relaxed in this accent. Everything is really, really chill. And if you feel like you're over egging it, that's cool, that's a good place to go to, but just make sure you start to strip it back. Otherwise it can start to feel a little bit caricature and a little bit pantomime-ish. Thank you so much again, everyone. Leave me a comment with what you'd like to see next, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.